We did not. Oh, we didn't have a quorum? I thought Commissioner Altman was online. Sorry. I apologize, everybody. I thought there was a quorum. Sorry. Jeez.
I have to thump the green gavel. So I call the Mecklenburg County Environmental Stewardship Committee meeting to order. We will begin today's meeting by having each board member identify him or herself so that the record can reflect who is present and participating in the meeting. I will introduce myself and call upon each of my colleagues to do the same. I am Commissioner Elaine Powell. I represent North Mecklenburg, people of District 1, and serve as Vice Chair of the Board and Chair of the Environmental Stewardship Committee. Next, I will ask my colleagues to make their introductions as I call out their districts. District 4.
Mark Jarrell, District 4. Thank you.
District 6.
Susan Rodriguez McDowell, elected by the people of District 6.
Thank you. And online, we have at-large Commissioner Altman.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you.
For the record, all commissioners have acknowledged their presence for the meeting. Therefore, we now have a quorum. I will now ask Aaron Stanforth to assist with introductions for others who are joining us here today.
Thanks, Commissioner Powell. With us remotely, we have Jeff Smithberger, Lee Jones, Ebenezer Jarlaputi, Joe Nanciti, Kate Mitchell, Alyssa Reitz, Nick Crawford, Britt Clampett, Juliana Hawley, Brian Carter, Krista Rogers, Jacqueline McNeil, and Maureen Glowski.
Thank you. And in the room, we have
Kathleen Reed. Oh, Sustainability Consultant with the County Manager's Office.
Clint Brooks, Sustainability Consultant with the County Manager's Office.
Barbara Worley, Director, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Mecklenburg County Center.
Chris Matthews, Mecklenburg County Park and Rec.
Good afternoon, Leslie Johnson, Deputy County Manager.
Charlene Minor, Town of Davidson, Natural Assets and Sustainability Coordinator.
next. I will entertain a motion to approve the October 10th meeting minutes.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell, seconded by Commissioner Jarrell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. So when I get to you guys, you're going to introduce Clint? Or do you want to do that now? Let's do that now. Yeah, since he just said his name and title, I thought it's a good time to introduce him before we start.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Clint Brooks is our new Farmland Preservation Coordinator. He comes to us from Park and Rec. He was with Park and Rec for roughly 8 years, and we're really lucky to have him. Do you want to say anything, Clint?
Thank you. I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
You have acquired an outstanding member. Outstanding. So
I concur.
welcome. All right. And now I want to introduce Charlene Minor. She is the Natural Assets and Sustainability Coordinator in Davidson. And she's going to share information about the Davidson Composting Food Waste Reduction Program. By popular demand, I heard when you were saying the names on the remote list of participants, that there are several people from the Waste Management Advisory Board on there. So welcome to the meeting. If you would like to ask any questions, you can type them in. And as I'm reading this, I'm realizing I forgot to read the part about the remote participation. So I'm going to read it now. A virtual attendance option is offered as an alternate mode of accessibility to our meeting today. We welcome the public who have been provided a call-in number to access this meeting. Those attending virtually are asked to display your full name on Zoom as attendance is recorded for the minutes. Additionally, virtual attendees are asked to remain muted and use the chat box to submit comments to be read aloud to the committee. The agenda, meeting minutes, and presentations for today were sent out to those already on the distribution list. If anyone did not receive these and would like electronic copies of any presentation materials provided today, please make those requests via email to Erin Stanforth. Her email address is Erin, ERIN.Stanforth, STANFORTH @mecnc.gov. And I'm especially happy that the Waste Management Advisory Board members are here. So if we can just keep checking to see if they have any questions, I would appreciate it. Thank you. And so you are up, Miss Charlene Miner. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, commissioners and others, for having me here today to talk about the Town of Davidson food waste reduction program. Charlene Miner in the Parks Rec Department and Natural Assets and Sustainability Coordinator, as mentioned. We can proceed to the next slide. Thank you. The Davidson Compost Program was designed to align with waste reduction strategies and recommendations included in internal town plans, local and national studies, and statewide efforts. So we took a lot under consideration. We also took under consideration some of our local resources. So a food waste reduction or diversion study that was done by the county in 2012. And that really helped guide the town to realize that likely 27 to 29% of all of our landfill waste is likely compostable. So that kind of led us to see what could be done. And the study also provided many great examples of other successful programs throughout the country. So that was something that we enjoyed reading about and learning and using as evidence for the program. We also were aware of some wonderful funding resources through the state. So the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality originally was part of the Waste Reduction and Recycling Grant. So having food waste as a priority area. In fact, it was so well thought of that they created a separate grant just for food waste. And that was just last year. So, and then again, lots of great examples in the region to take a look at. And can go to the next slide. Some additional background is that the Town of Davidson's Parks and Recreation Department actually benefited from the Mecklenburg County Master Compost Training that occurred in the past. And we taught home composting workshops for well over 8 years. And one of the things we noticed is we did hit a certain portion of the population who was interested. However, there was a group of residents who would not be able to take advantage of that because they did not have yard space available. Maybe they were renting, and that led us to additional questions on how we could make that work better. We formed a community member team. We have very enthusiastic residents, and that's sort of started our discussion around creating a pilot program that could expand the reach of our diversion in town and get more residents involved. We applied for and were awarded some grants through the state, and that was very helpful. And we formed a partnership with Crown Town Compost. We knew they were already working in town. They were collecting waste from other groups in town, such as retirement community, the local college, some restaurants, and they also had home-based subscriptions. So we knew we weren't adding to our carbon footprint because they were already driving to Davidson. And they were going to serve as the hauler and then serve some other capacities for us. We also looked at some examples, some successes and challenges within the state and locally as well, to see what had been done. And so there's several different formats that could be chosen. We chose to try a drop-off program, and that started in September of 2022 with 5 drop-off locations throughout town. We wanted that in the downtown corridor where people pass through very easily. So most of our programs are at town parks, government buildings and community partners like a church in town next to one of our largest apartment complexes. So that's been great. During the pilot program, we had 80 households sign up within the first 24 hours. Several residents were excited and said, "Hey, I've been waiting for this for years." So that was good feedback. We collected about 575 pounds of food waste per week on average. And we received this handy diversion report, as you can see pictured here. That's an annual report that's provided by Crown Town Compost. And you can see on that participant map that it was really community-wide. There was a lot of interest throughout town. Okay, next slide, please. So with the next fiscal year, we really looked at expanding the program and having it budgeted through a regular process. So we operationalized it. And now we actually have 8 drop-off locations. So we wanted these to be closer to neighborhoods so that people could easily walk or bike rather than drive to do the drop-offs. Again, we have, we're probably at 275 participating households and counting. So new people are joining every day. We have online enrollment, and that is the way that folks can access the carts. So in the picture to the right, this photo didn't have the lock assembly on the roll cart, but we just sort of put it in there for view. But basically they're emailed a welcome letter, and within the welcome letter, it has a combination for the lock. And so then they can access any of the locks 24/7. And we actually are seeing close to 0 contamination rates. So there's not trash in here. Most of the users are really involved in the process. They're so excited about it, and they receive a list of what to put in and not, and they're very good about it. We also wanted the program to be extremely use minimal staff time and effort. And so it is very streamlined, very simple, very cost effective. I mentioned where some of our drop-offs are. That's worked out great. Some of the costs. So we do use Crown Town Compost as our hauler. We chose not to use staff for that. It was much more convenient this way. They've also provided a lot of expertise. So they provide that diversion report I mentioned, and they actually help with registration. So people register through their site. That's convenient for us again. And then the supplies were mostly paid for through state funding. So probably about 80% of costs were handled there. So that has been extremely beneficial as well. And of course, we've seen secondary benefits, as you can imagine. So sort of building up that circular economy and meeting some of our carbon neutrality goals and targets. Economic development and job creation, we see that is expanding through this program. And then just in general, environmental education. So it's definitely raised interest throughout the region. We're hearing from other towns who want to try similar programs. And again, just accelerates those conversations for other efforts that we have going. And then we do have finished compost that it can then be utilized at our parks. And so we get that back from Crown Town and then utilize that. So that saves on fertilizer costs. So another cost savings. And I think I've covered most of the things that I've wanted to. Future plans for growth. I guess we do hope to expand the participation rate in town. So probably aiming for like 10% of the household population within the town in the short term. And then substantially increasing our diversion rates by coordinating with non-residential sectors. So really looking at the business sectors and corporations in town. It is a small town, so we are limited on that, but definitely to see more restaurants and grocery stores participating would be great. And then again, to be a model for the region. So, as we hear from other cities and counties, to, be a resource for them. And that's all I have today. This is a picture of Beatty Park. And this was these garden beds here. We utilized some of the finished compost as fertilizer for these. So that was a great project.
So you get the tonnage for what Crown Town hauls off. Do you get the tonnage for what they bring back? Or do they just match it?
Do you mean as far as the finished
For the
finished fertilizer?
the soil?
So the finished compost, it's not an exact match with the tonnage that's gone out. But it's enough for what projects we have, if that helps.
Thank you. Before we go to commissioners, have any questions come in? Okay. Do you have any questions?
I don't, thank you.
Yeah. sure.
Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell?
Sure. Thank you. So this is new to me, learning about composting, really. I don't know that much about it. So would you say the main purpose is to reserve landfill space? And then also secondarily for fertilizer? Is that the main?
I would say that we are working through toward a carbon neutrality goal of 2037 for the town. So we are trying to be more aware of what type of emissions the town contributes. And so we do feel like there's a methane reduction and hopefully eventually more of a transportation component. So that would be one of the components. And then yes, to reduce landfill space is definitely a secondary. And the finished fertilizer, we see that as just a nice benefit from the program.
Okay, thank you. That's really it for me. Thank you.
So you said 80% of the cost comes through state funding. How are the other costs covered?
Yeah, so 80% of the supplies costs. So they're very specific about having the grant funding through the state for supplies. I think it also covers some of your marketing and education expenses. But for the hauling, that is actually operationalized into our budget now. So we pay that. And there's basically a monthly fee. You know, we have a contract with Crown Town Compost currently. But again, you know, through the procurement process, that could be something that, you know, as more vendors and haulers come available, you know, there'd be more competition. So that would be nice.
You said that there's almost zero contamination with this lock program. Did you always have the lock program or did it start off with locks?
Yes, we actually did start off with locks intentionally so that we could avoid some of the contamination that, let's say, we see in the recycling program. We were really excited to try to get as much of that 27% of compostable materials with food and also non-recyclable paper waste can all be composted. And so that's been successful.
Sure. Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
I need you to draw me a picture of how locks help. Like, is it so random people can't just throw stuff in there, or does it? Okay.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's exactly how we envision it. And that's how it's worked so far.
Okay, thank you.
There's so much contamination with waste. It's shocking.
Huh.
Like even just there's different containers at the full service centers. And almost every one of them is contaminated, even the glass, you know, people take old lampshades, old glass lampshades and put them in. And our director calls that wishful recycling, but it's contamination. And so the least contaminated I've seen is styrofoam. It's amazing how little contamination there is so far. I hope it stays that way. Did you think of anything?
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Well, since we still have a few minutes, when Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell asked the question, I was just on a call the other day about a county with a significant population that is running out of landfill space and strategizing on what are we going to do? And so a responsible strategy, especially in Mecklenburg, is, and throughout the country, is to minimize waste. And so if anything is renewable, you don't want to put it in your waste stream. And so how can we be smart about pulling everything out, minimizing the amount that goes to landfills so that we can preserve the life of the landfill and also protect the natural resources? And so, you know, like whatever the percentage is, maybe it's close to 100, if not 100, for the ability to recycle aluminum. So when you know, like I was camping this weekend, and when we would stop at different places, you'd see aluminum in the trash can. And I think I couldn't even do it. Like I would have to carry it in my backpack because it's so recyclable. And same for food waste. It's a shame for many of the things that go to the landfill to go there. So how do we minimize waste? And it's really impressive how much enthusiasm you have in Davidson. They're so proud of it. And I hope that it can expand to, you know, starting off with churches or small businesses where it gets bigger and there's minimum contamination and quick pickup, because there are a lot of concerns that keep good things from happening. And sometimes you just have to jump in and do it and then deal with whatever happens. But I feel like we're very close to, you know, there's a demand from the Waste Management Advisory Board to look into this. And I hope you guys know we're looking into it. Okay, I see Joe is writing a note, but I don't have my granny glasses on. So could you read it, please, Erin?
Sure. So Joe Nancetti stated, "I'm so happy that you all are having this discussion. Hope this conversation can continue on positive ways we can start food waste diversion in Mecklenburg County."
Thank you. So some people call it diversion. I call it waste minimization. They're exactly the same thing. Like just don't take it to the landfill. And it's a great way of protecting and reusing natural resources. So thank you so much.
There's one other comment.
there is?
Sorry. Maureen Giluski
Yes.
stated, "I am a gardener and a supporter of composting. The big news these days is the release of CO2 with decomposition and burying organic matter to keep it from releasing CO2. I hope we can proceed without getting too crazy with CO2 sinks."
CO2 stinks.
Thanks.
Like a carbon dioxide sink.
Thank you, Maureen. And thank you, Charlene, for being here and for doing the program, and keep taking pictures. Thank you. And so now we are going to move on to Dr. Worley. So if you would like to start.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Thank you, everyone. Commissioner Gerald, Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell, and Dr. Johnson for having me here today. I'm Barbara Worley. I am the Director of North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Mecklenburg County Center. And I'm going to share just a little bit about what Extension is today. So the mission and the vision of Extension is pretty straightforward. We extend research-based knowledge to all North Carolinians, from our 2 land-grant universities to the people, to help transform science into everyday solutions. And we are seen as a model of non-formal educational excellence that advocates and advances agriculture, the environment, human health and well-being for youth and communities, and all while creating prosperity for all North Carolinians. So how did we get here? So there were 2 acts, the Morrill Acts of 1862 and 1890. You might have heard of the 1862 and 1890 universities. Our 1862 university is North Carolina State University, which was actually established in 1887. And our 1890 university is North Carolina A&T State University, which was established in 1891. And together, and I'm going to get into more detail about how they collectively form North Carolina Cooperative Extension, they are our 2 land-grant universities that were established by the signing of the Morrill Acts that began with President Lincoln. And then the Smith-Lever Act is what actually started the National Cooperative Extension Service, that was to extend these programs from the universities to rural communities. And today, Extension continues to serve the needs of rural, suburban, and urban communities such as ours here in Mecklenburg by helping citizens find solutions to improve their lives. And what I thought was a fun fact with Smith-Lever history was it was authored by Senator Hoke Smith of Georgia, but he was born in Catawba County, North Carolina. So it does bring this cooperative extension aspect close to home here. So land grants. The land grant university model is a tripartite model that includes teaching, research, and extension. And this synergistic relationship exists on our campuses in Raleigh, where NC State is, and in Greensboro, where NC A&T is, and at our research centers across the state and in each county at our extension centers. So as the two land grant universities, North Carolina State and North Carolina A&T, we have an important obligation to serve our state through extension. With roots that stretch across every county, extension provides practical science-based guidance that helps families, individuals, businesses, and communities make informed decisions and achieve better outcomes. And collectively together, you will notice that I said I'm the director of North Carolina Cooperative Extension here in Mecklenburg County. And that is because our staff is represented by both North Carolina State Extension and Cooperative Extension at North Carolina A&T State University. So collectively, we are North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Mecklenburg County Center. But we can't do this without partnerships. Federal, state, and county funding create a strong and unique partnership. The USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture is a cornerstone of extension. Their financial and programmatic support helps strengthen extension efforts to identify emerging research questions and to apply science and technology to improve the nation's agricultural, economic, and social well-being. Since the passage of the Smith-Lever Act in 1914, land-grant universities have worked toward a common mission to extend knowledge to the public. North Carolina State and North Carolina A&T ensure that research discoveries are delivered from the campuses to the communities. And Extension has offices in every county of North Carolina and the Eastern Band of Cherokee. The staff and volunteers work with local government to support agriculture, horticulture, conservation and environmental protection, nutrition and health, as well as a variety of consumer, youth, and economic concerns. The county-based partnership between NC State, NC A&T, and government is represented, as I mentioned, as NC Cooperative Extension. Therefore, we are North Carolina Cooperative Extension Mecklenburg County Center. However, on campus, specific initiatives are branded and represented as NC State Extension and Cooperative Extension at NC A&T State University. So sometimes there is a little bit of confusion there. However, if you ever see NC State Extension or Cooperative Extension NC A&T and you think, is that something separate? Is that you guys? Yes, it is. I work for NC State Extension. One of my 4-H agents works for Cooperative Extension at NC A&T, but we are still NC Cooperative Extension. And North Carolina Cooperative Extension serves as a bridge between North Carolinians and those two land-grant universities, as stated, providing what is a system of solutions across our state. Here in Mecklenburg County, we have county-based field faculty that first identify local issues through creating needs assessments. We research solutions and then deliver research-based resources to create results, and research being a key term there because we are disseminating these research-based educational programs to our communities. Through Extension, we take groundbreaking research from the two universities and deliver knowledge and tools and technology directly into the hands of all of our fellow North Carolinians, helping them to transform science into everyday solutions that improve our lives and grow our state. From all across the state, from Murphy to Manteo, there are more than 1,000 extension experts, the trusted leading authorities in their subject matter areas who address our local needs. From rural to urban areas, in person and online, Extension serves all North Carolinians through our educational programs, our events, through our digital platforms, our publications, school curriculum, and more. Extension is the largest non-formal educational outreach organization in the 17-campus UNC system. NC Cooperative Extension is comprised of 101 local centers, as I said, including every county and the Eastern Band of Cherokee. There are more than 1,000 experts who deliver more than 137,000 educational outreach activities via 25,000 educational programs to 2.6 million participants. Annually, there are 3.8 million visitors to Extension websites for over 9 million page views. Dedicated volunteers also play a key role in supporting and delivery of our programs, helping us pursue local needs and enhancing our impact. In 2022, Extension volunteers across the state donated more than $12 million worth of time and services. Also in 2022 in Mecklenburg County alone, which you will find out soon that we actually had no staff. We were down to just an admin assistant and our CED had come back part-time. Still, because of the work of our volunteers, more than 4,800 hours of service were donated by our Extension volunteers. That's nearly $126,000 in value of time. Moreover, in 2022, the Extension economic impact on Mecklenburg County's economy was nearly $284,000. The official stats for 2023 have yet to be released because they haven't been calculated, of course, but thus far, more than 9,000 hours of service have been donated by our Extension volunteers in Mecklenburg County. These groups include our Extension Master Gardener volunteers and 4-H volunteers. In 2024, the volunteer groups will be expanded to include our Extension Master Food Volunteer Program. As you see, Extension's economic and functional impacts on the state are significant, with returns on Extension programming eclipsing the cost of operations many times over. Extension's annual economic impact to North Carolina is $2.1 billion, and our work yields a 27-to-1 return on annual government investments. Many of you might not realize this because we do live in such an urban area. And one of my favorite things to discuss is what urban agriculture is. But agriculture is North Carolina's largest industry, generating over $103 billion annually while employing roughly 16% of the state's workforce of 4.6 million people. North Carolina's agriculture industry includes food, fiber, and forestry. It's the third most diverse agricultural economy in the country, with more than 90 crop varieties and a robust animal agricultural presence that comprises 70% of the industry. And of course, Extension supports the North Carolina agricultural economy by connecting growers and other members of our very important food system and our local food system here in our urban environments with research-based information and tools. Extension in North Carolina is divided into 5 districts. Mecklenburg County is in the South Central District and is one of 6 urban centers in the state. Each district is led by a district director at NC State Extension. Cooperative Extension at NC-A&T is divided into 3 regions, East, West, and Urban. So our district extension director for NC State Extension is Keith Walters. And Dr. Shannon Wiley is our Urban Regional Extension Director with Cooperative Extension at North Carolina A&T. And I work very closely with both of those individuals. Extension organizes our core programming into 3 main focus areas: food and agriculture, 4-H youth development, and health and nutrition. However, these areas are expanded in Extension's urban efforts, which take place in our 6 urban centers, ours here in Mecklenburg, as well as the centers in Durham, Forsyth, Guilford, New Hanover, and Wake counties. From working with our communities to establish gardens and at schools, to small farm camps for urban growers, to nutrition and cooking classes, to conservation and stewardship programs regarding stormwater runoff, to coordinating volunteer horticulture activities in urban environments. Extension helps meet the vital needs of our communities. Urban Extension staff and volunteers partner and collaborate with local government, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, residents, and others to design and implement strategies that improve the quality of life for all of our community members. North Carolina Cooperative Extension Mecklenburg County Center has a brand new team as of 2023. Shane Austin Daniel, our admin assistant with North Carolina State Extension, was our only original team member. She's been with Extension for about 8 years in Mecklenburg County, but the rest of us here in Mecklenburg County are new to Mecklenburg County. Our team currently consists of 4 agents, our administrative assistant, Shane, and myself, who is the Extension Director. There are 6 agent positions, 2 in each of the 3 core programming areas, and currently I have 2 of those 6 agent positions remaining open. Our urban ag local food agent should be posted very soon with NC State Extension. And the family consumer science positions focused on workforce development within the local food environment with cooperative extension at A&T State University is in the process of being posted. Sam Humphrey, who is our urban ag and horticulture agent, also oversees our Extension Master Gardener program. Demetria Cox Thomas, our family and consumer science agent, oversees all of our food security, nutrition programming, and collaborates with our farmers markets and food pantries. Isaiah Barco, who is our 4-H agent with Cooperative Extension at A&T, oversees our 4-H programming in the areas of STEM, urban agriculture, and school gardens. And Garrett Gorley, who is our 4-H agent with NC State Extension, oversees our in-school 4-H programming, our traditional 4-H programming with clubs, embryology, and outdoor and environmental exploration. Food insecurity is a major focus of all of Extension's urban programs across the state. Thus, a common vision and theme at NC Cooperative Extension Mecklenburg County Center is urban agriculture and our local food systems. So as Terry Stowers and I presented back in September, we are currently working with stakeholders and community members as we master plan the 44 acres on which we sit, in which the current center currently operates for the hopeful future of the Amy James Urban Agriculture Park. Based on the tripartite model of the Land Grant University Research, Education, and Extension, this Urban Extension Center has a potential to be one of a kind in a country, actualizing urban agriculture and youth development programs through our education, research, and community engagement. We have worked diligently since we all arrived to develop more than 35 county partnerships with multiple agencies and organizations across all 3 of our program areas, to include but not limited to partners such as the Bulb, Uptown Farmers Market, the Charlotte Meck Food Policy Council, Carolina Farm Trust, Piedmont Culinary Guild, Niner Elementary, Atrium Health, Farm Bureau, and others. North Carolina Cooperative Extension will be working in concert on several of the farmland preservation plan strategies outlined with Aaron and Kathleen and Clint as it is being developed and instituted as well. Wendell Berry noted that if you eat, you are involved in agriculture. And my favorite saying is agriculture is food and culture. The integrated programmatic focus at North Carolina Cooperative Extension Mecklenburg County Center is centered around teaching not only about where our food comes from, but about where our food came from. Therefore, we are focused on and committed to cultivating a holistic and multidisciplinary urban extension program, drawing from an understanding of the importance of building and sustaining trusting relationships to address the very important needs of all of our communities here in Mecklenburg County. I want to thank you very much for having me today. Any questions?
I'm just going to ask for a little bit more. When we go to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, the whole first day, they're getting ready for the big meal that the cooperative extension provides. And so throughout the state of North Carolina, this is a big deal,
Yes.
the cooperative extension. Because we're in an urban area, I think that there are a lot of people that don't even have an understanding of what cooperative extension means, why it's important. And so in my district, you know, when we were at the cooperative extension meeting, several of them, a lot of my farmers show up from District 1.
Mhm.
And this is so important to them. And I grew up in this, but this is so high level. I need help from you, like, and just give us real life examples so that everyone can hear. Give us real life examples of how cooperative extension makes a difference in, let's just start with health and nutrition.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
how does that work in Mecklenburg County? And just so everyone knows, in the Park and Recreation Commission, cooperative extension is housed in Park and Recreation in Mecklenburg County, which is unique. And so on the Park and Recreation Commission, each commissioner has multiple responsibilities. And Ann Harrison right now is the
Mhm.
person that has the responsibility to be over not just her job in the Park Commission, but she has the responsibility of being the chair of cooperative extension.
Right.
So if you can talk to, you know, at the local level,
Local, yes.
the local
absolutely.
level, if we could just start, how does it impact health and nutrition?
Yes, absolutely. And I can definitely talk to that one because that was for almost 20 years. I was a family consumer science agent. So that is where I lived, was in the realm of health and nutrition. So many of the programs that Extension deals with chronic disease prevention. And most of our extension programs are at low cost or no cost to communities. And and like I said, we have so many partnerships that we have with other area organizations. So teaching how to prevent diabetes and why we need to be eating certain things and not other things in order to prevent diabetes, especially if you're on a limited budget, as it is funded through SNAP education, which at NC State Extension, we have a program called Steps to Health. And so that is a program that we have that is federally funded and state funded through our Steps to Health program, that we can go into our communities, partner with other organizations, and have the resources to, in a very approachable manner, teach individuals how to eat more healthfully to either reduce their risk or sometimes even change their lifestyle to where certain medications are not even necessary anymore. So that would be one example. And even as I'm talking about this, I was thinking about an example of a program that I used to teach, both at NC State Extension, and I was with UGA Extension for a while, about food waste, which goes into an environmental sector. It was called dual purpose vegetables. And so not only was it a cooking class, but it was teaching individuals. So you were saving money, but it was how do we mitigate food waste by utilizing, for example, the entire carrot? And so you're like, oh, I didn't know that actually it would be more economical to buy the carrot with the greens on tops. And guess what? I needed parsley as well. And I can use those carrot greens as parsley too. And so these are all those educational aspects. And what are the health benefits of that? And how is that healthy? And how is that good for not only for the environment, but also for my wallet as well.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Yeah. The more local, the better, because I think
Yeah.
it's the hook, like, then you want to know
Yeah.
more. And so and I have one of my beloved neighbors is in the Davis family. So he's been really involved with this.
Mhm.
Give me an example of a local program that protects natural resources.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we actually just got a grant for a rainfall simulator. with, it was with the Conservation District as well, in order for 4-H youth to be able to come to our, and this is youth development, and you can see that most of these things cross over with one another in order to see how, you know, the effects of water runoff on our soil and our ground, and what does that mean, and what would that look like, and why it's important that, you know, that we protect our watersheds and so on and so forth. And so that is one of the programs that we are going to be instituting on environmental protection through our 4-H program as well, and is again another community partnership.
And is there one you'd like to share for food and agriculture locally?
Yeah, definitely. So the strengthening the local food systems, and I should have put up a diagram of, and it would look like a big swirled spaghetti mess of the increasing the agricultural awareness. So we have a growers network of, and it's not through extension, but it's something that we are key, I want to say partners in, is how bringing awareness through communicating who has what available. And I know that those were like not very technical terms, and they don't need to be, but that when we have availability of products in season locally, and where you can glean those products from your neighbors, and we keep that line of communication open, that is something that is going to sustain our community, both economically, but also it's going to help our environment, because we are not having to ship in products from across the country, because we're like, wow, we can actually grow that stuff here. Yes, you can. We actually have people that have those products here, and you're going to be keeping your dollars here in Mecklenburg County, and supporting your local farmer here. But it's the conversations that have to happen. And that's where extension is a key player in the increasing agricultural awareness, is because we are facilitating a lot of those conversations through connecting farmers through our visioning sessions, and do you know this person, and did you know about this resource? And a lot of it is understanding and having the, I guess, the voice to be able to communicate that at a larger scale, that the university can harness that energy sometimes to do that. The other part with the food and agriculture part to strengthen the local food systems is, and this crosses over to our family consumer science, lives in health and nutrition, but it goes into our food and agriculture sector. Is we just received a very large grant to work with one of our food pantries to go into a couple of the markets that they work with to provide cooking demonstrations utilizing some of the not only reclaimed, they have a sort of a three-prong approach. They use reclaimed sources, food, growing their own food, and then also donations food through their pantries at markets that are set up as well, to demonstrate recipes that are of cultural relevance to where the market is located. And as a result of that, Demetria is also going to be producing a cookbook for the residents to take home as well. So, and she's an RD, so it's going to have all of the nutritional information attached to it.
Is Master Gardening one of your programs?
Master Gardening is one of, yes, it is the Extension Master Gardeners. And that is that encompasses everything that is on here. And so the Extension Master Gardeners, as I mentioned, they even last year produced about almost 4,800 service hours and are already on track. Our volunteer appreciation lunch is tomorrow. They've already donated over 9,000 hours. We have almost 160 Extension Master Gardeners that make up about 15 different, what I would call outreach teams, covering everything from community gardens to school gardens to speakers bureau. The beautiful gardens you see at Freedom Park are maintained and beautified by our extension master gardeners. So you see their thumbprint, they go into schools, they go into our farmers markets. And so they are a big part of our outreach education as it relates to the horticultural sciences.
I brought that up because I knew the answer, but I
Yes.
brought it up because I knew it was important. And also because when you were giving your presentation, you were talking about the master
For food coach,
composters.
yeah,
Yes.
I wrote that down.
Yes, and so I thought all of that mastering makes a difference in the community.
Mhm.
Thank you. I think that the more that we can learn about all the local things that are happening, the better advocates we can be.
Mhm.
And thank you for the high level, because I don't think, I'll never forget, was it Kristen, the lady before you?
Yeah, I think she was, yes,
There was
or two
Kristen and
before.
then there was a man and.
there was Nelson and.
Nelson, yeah. And so I remember like getting her email and it said from North Carolina State, and I thought she's here in Mecklenburg. And so I didn't know the history. So thank you for the history. We have that now.
Mhm.
And I just knew more local,
Mhm.
and it is really important. So keep us in the loop.
I will. I
Okay.
will, as we can continue to develop, but everything that, the key of what we are doing essentially is if it has to do with anything in the local food scene, or horticulture, or where your food comes from, think extension.
Commissioner Gerald, do you have any questions?
I do. Thanks for the presentation. A few things, and so I'll just get them all out the way. Hopefully, you'll catch it. To Commissioner Powell's point about local impact, one of the things that I was thinking about was I would love to, and you're not going to be able to do it now, which is fine, and you touched on a little bit, but I would really love to understand the research questions that are being considered for us in Mecklenburg County, right? And then what does that implementation look like? What have we done here locally that we can point to as far as impact?
Mhm.
I don't have a clear sense. I got the macro level, but from a micro perspective, I don't have a clear sense of how many people we're touching here.
Yeah.
You mentioned economic impact of $2.1 billion, and I thought we said 284,000 of
No,
that.
that was state and then. like,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
no, $2.1 billion statewide, but 284,000 in Mecklenburg County was the economic impact.
Right, with no staff.
Okay, so I guess, and this isn't your issue
Mhm.
necessarily, but I think if we're talking about an economic impact across the state of $2.1 billion, and then the largest county, and I say we're the largest county, but an extremely large county with an economic impact of $284,000 of that is just, again, staff notwithstanding, I don't know, that's just gosh, like we're used to being on the top end of the economic impact. So that just seemed so odd to me, hearing it, I guess, and maybe not to anybody else, but that was just to me. I don't understand the disconnect. Like, how are we solving to that?
I think I can answer that. Actually, I think that the disconnect to that too is if you go
Well,
back.
hold on one second.
Okay,
Let
sorry.
me just make this last point, and you did take it away. And then also locally, food insecurity. And you touched on this, and I really appreciate that. And that's a big focus for us as a board. I would really at some point love to be able to understand what we need to be doing to really support whatever you guys are doing. Like what is the reason? You guys are scientists, right? So what's the research telling us that we're not doing? Where should we be headed with this thing and what could the impact be? So those are all my things out on the table.
Wonderful. So I think that the disconnect too with the larger numbers and the more localized numbers is they localize the numbers to the county centers. And then the larger number is the statewide extension land grant impact between teaching, research, and the extension localized centers. And so you're pulling out the centers, and then you have the land grant extension impact. And so it's, where would we sit? I could show you where would we rank against other centers versus what the impact is as extension as the land grant model. And so extension is sort of a misnomer as it sits in the tripartite mission of the land grant and as an extension center too. So that's where I think the disconnect is there in those, in that.
And now I'm more disconnected.
Okay, sorry.
But it's totally
that's
fine.
true.
Obviously,
Yeah.
there's an answer that.
Yes,
that
there is.
kind of-
And I am so happy to hear what are the research questions that we're asking, because there are actually, so we do have needs assessment questions that we do ask, and we do have, when we are doing needs, what do our communities need? What do we want? And they're based on several things. And I'm happy to provide those with you. But also when the scientists at NC State are putting together their infographics to show cumulative impact, like the larger numbers, the countywide numbers, they have been asking a blanket set of questions based on agriculturally. If you go to NC Farm Link and you pull up agricultural statistics, which is at the NC State Extension website, Mecklenburg County's numbers look terrible because we could not be compared to like a Duplin County or a Sampson County, or one of the larger economic county, agricultural speaking economic counties, which is what Extension's history is rooted in. So I was at a meeting last Monday, and the person from NC State, Dr. Noah Rannells, who puts together that information, said, Dr. Worley, I would love for you as an ag science communicator to work with me and others in the urban centers to find out what questions do we need to be asking about urban agriculture so we can capture that information specifically to find out what impact extension is having on this sort of landscape so we can make it more digestible for individuals to see. Because right now, a lot of the questions that are being asked at a more statewide level, and it is more blanketed. Now, when we go out and we have our focus groups, our advisory groups, we ask targeted questions, but what is being published by the universities is more statewide. So I'm glad that you had that thought as well. Food access and security, I have my own thoughts on that. I believe, and we are going to be showing an example of this at the Extension Center off of Leicester at the Amy James Complex. I think that we need to be growing more on blacktop. They do it at Texas A&M. We are going to have our raised beds, our container gardens, and our greenhouse on a double basketball court behind the center. So Terry Stowers from Parks and Rec went and saw some examples out in Dallas recently. And so I think that a lot of the food access issues here in Mecklenburg County are not where our farmland is, and we need to be preserving that farmland, but we also need to be farming where it's not traditional farmland. Urban farming looks different. So I think that's what needs to happen to.
Do you guys answer the question on delivery though? So like, yes, we're in this
Right.
community or whatever, right? And not to solve to it now, but how do we get it to Miss Jones, or how do we get product to people? Like, I guess I would love, Madam Chair, maybe to come back one day and
Yeah.
maybe we can, or even you love the field trips, maybe we take a field trip and like to the community. I just, and maybe everybody else understands it. I don't, I love to grow, but I don't understand how we get it out.
into the community? I know we set up farmers markets and things of that nature, but the people that need it most, are they really getting?
No,
access?
and I had this conversation. I was included on
Sorry,
a community.
that's it for me, sorry.
Yeah, I love these questions and they are extremely important. And these are the things that we are discussing, in the local food spaces right now. There is a disconnect because there is, where are we growing our food? And it is not centralized to where the food access issues are. What are we growing? Is it truly accessible? And what I mean accessible is, yes, we have farmers markets. And those are great. And I'm not ever, I wholeheartedly believe, and please don't misunderstand me in saying this, but I would like to see more of, are we growing? And I had this conversation at a space in North Mech. Recently, it was an Atrium Health event where we were collaborating on some ideas of when we have things, for example, in markets, in food pantries, are they truly serving the communities that they need to be serving? And what I mean by that is, for example, if you have lots of butternut squash and you can't get rid of your butternut squash, but yet your community is still hungry, what's the disconnect? Well, maybe we don't need to be growing butternut squash. And I'm just throwing that, no shade on butternut squash. But we need to be doing a better job at community engaged research to understand what our community needs and what is relevant, what is culturally relevant. And that's why food and culture is the foundation of agriculture, because that is going to help solve our food access issues.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell?
I don't have any questions, except I did wonder if you thought of asking Lee is.
I just wrote it down
Oh.
because I thought, I forgot to ask her on the,
last one.
yeah, so I'm glad Charlene is still here. Please don't leave. Commissioner Altman. Come in.
Hi there.
Hi, I'm
I
sorry I
am
forgot
here.
you.
No, you didn't forget me. I'm here and listening, but I'm good for now. Thank you.
So my understanding is you don't have any questions, or that you will type them in.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I did get a text question for Charlene. Is there any charge to the residents of Davidson for the composting?
Sorry, it is a free program to our residents. It's just funded through taxes, and like I said, it's operationalized into the annual budget.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, since we have time, can I ask you one more question?
Yes, I would love it.
Yes.
Commissioner Jarrell.
So I know when we talk about the need, that's super important. When we go into communities, and again, you hit on this, and I really appreciate you talking about the cultural relevancy. That's so important, to be cognizant around that. And so the point is, do we differentiate between the need and the want? So
Yeah.
we know we need fresh vegetables, right? But we want to drill down and say, I want, within this culture, we consume asparagus or
Right.
whatever the case, and try to solve to it that way? Or do we try to say, yeah, you want this, but you need.
Right. See, that's the difference. And see, that's where I take a different approach. It's what the cultural relevance is, what is relevant to what they want,
Okay.
not
So-
because that becomes, that is an engagement approach. Otherwise, it's still a hegemonic approach. Otherwise, it's still a top down. It's us saying this is what you need, and it can't, that's creating barriers and holding people down. And it's not ever going to solve anything. The only way is because we truly don't know what someone needs. Only someone within one's culture and heritage knows what they need and what is important. So that's why often and that's where I'm trying to when I have these discussions with master gardener teams or so forth that work in community gardens is, we can't make an assumption of what should go. We don't direct this, the community directs, just like anything that we do, we don't direct, the community directs.
Thank you.
So a couple things. Thank you for both presentations. And if you guys remember on a consent agenda item that Commissioner Leak pulled, solid waste did apply for a grant for composting. And then I think we'll hear back. Is Jeff Smithberger on this call? So I would like to recognize him because tomorrow is America Recycles Day, which is really important. So if we could recognize him and maybe he would like to talk for a minute about our grant application. Come in, Jeff Smithberger.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I think this might work.
Good
Can you hear me
afternoon.
okay?
We hear you.
Your
Perfect.
your fan club is here.
Well, thank you. No, I'm a fan of your alls. Yeah, tomorrow is America Recycles Day. So it's a date that we celebrate every November the 15th. But traditionally, every day for us is America Recycles Day. We're going to be doing a few things tomorrow. We sent out a press release today, but we're going to really highlight our cart stickering program because Commissioner, you had mentioned earlier about the amount of contamination and wishful contamination we get. We really want to make people understand what goes in curbside recycling and understand the difference between curbside recycling and what I call bring it to us recycling. So that's going to be the highlight that we try to push tomorrow for the 2023 America's Recycling Day. And maybe if we're successful in the food waste grant, we will be able to tout next year that folks can bring food waste to any of our full service centers.
And I don't know if it was you or Joe Hack on the landfill call the other day, but did you want to talk just for a moment about the importance of waste minimization?
Yes, ma'am. We were on that call as well, and we heard what they had to say. And in some respect, they are sort of spot on in the fact that we have within the state around 22 to 25 years of landfill capacity. No one else has developed any additional landfill capacity as of late, but two projects are scheduled to likely add increased capacity. The Speedway landfill that's operated by BFI/Republic Services will be soon applying for an additional expansion area. And the Anson County landfill has also applied for an expansion of their area. So while those numbers today may look small, if the two expansions for both of those facilities go through, it will add another several years to the process. However, that doesn't minimize the fact that every single landfill that's ever been built will eventually fill up. And that's the importance of waste minimization, because the more waste that we can reduce going to landfills, it means that those landfills will be available for us. And during times of crisis and hurricanes and ice storms and things, we rely upon landfills. Nobody wants one in their backyard, but they are something that we as a society are dependent upon having, but we want to maintain their resource without filling it up unduly necessarily.
Thank you. Sometimes you look back on things that have happened in the county and you think, why didn't they invest in this? You can't imagine. And when you look at the history of the recycling infrastructure in Mecklenburg County, there has been a commitment to it. There's been a commitment to making sure that, just think of how big it is, that everyone here has the ability to recycle, even if you have to drive it to a full service recycling center. So it's a thing that throughout the years that the county has invested in. And I think, some of the people that did the work won't be here to see the value of it, but it's been extremely responsible in terms of infrastructure for recycling. And I'm glad that the current Waste Management Advisory Board is pushing for composting, and glad that we have the grant application in. Is there anything like I love it. If we have an extra minute, is there any question that you guys have? Anybody? Come in questions. If anyone has a question, you can type it in. Do you have a question, Chris? No? No questions coming in? Whoa.
I hear something.
Hello? Oh, okay. All right, well, if there are no further questions, thank you. Thank you so much. You sure you don't want to have, tell us well, tell us a little, Clint. He's a farmer. You're a farmer.
Yep.
Tell us a
yep.
little bit. We have a minute.
With regard to what?
Your background, like in farming.
Okay. So I grew up here in Eastern Mecklenburg County, right on the Cabarrus County line. I grew up on a working farm, livestock, row crops, produce. When I was about 5 or 6, my dad said, if you want to make a little bit of money, I will buy the seed and the fertilizer, but you got to help me plant it. So my brother and I would plant it, and then he would take us. There was a little handy pantry store at the top of our long gravel road, and we would sit up there and sell sweet corn. And so that's kind of where dad said, you're going to learn 2 things. You're going to learn how to make money and learn how to talk to people. And I think learning how to talk to people was more valuable than anything. But this kind of my experience, and still farm to this day personally. A lot of produce stuff, honeybees, still do that a good bit. So in my professional background, obviously Park and Rec with natural resources, forestry, wildlife management. But I've also had a stint with soil and water and NRCS and natural resources conservation from farm planning standpoint. So working with producers every day with these solutions. Barbara was talking about rainfall simulators, talking about erosion, all that different type of stuff, working with farmers to make conservation plans for their farms. So that's sort of my background and history. So love being outside and working with producers on these real world problems. Thank you.
We are lucky to have you. And I especially love, I don't know if you guys remember, but when we went for our air quality field trip, Clint was there. Because he also worked, in his history in prescribed burns. And so he wanted to understand, they get all these rules about making sure they don't burn on certain days. And so then you came to the air quality, but I'll never forget it because I thought you wanted to learn more. I felt like because the impact on human health, because you're a dad.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. And I was like, I love that. I love to see the personal side of people, like, because it matters, it matters about the air we're breathing and the water we're drinking. So welcome. I'm just so happy you're here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn early. I can't believe it.
So moved. We get back 4 minutes.
Moved by Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
Second.
I thought Commissioner Jarrell was going to say no. Seconded by Commissioner Jarrell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the meeting is adjourned. And I hope you feel better, Commissioner Altman.
Thank you. See y'all in a minute.
All right.